Today I'm going to show you how to make some groups using deciduous trees. These are groups that we made 2 or 3 years ago. There's a mixture of beech trees. They're so old that the stems are already getting white. It's not the Japanese white bark beech, it's the ordinary European beech, which is the Fagus sylvatica. So most of these are beech groups. There's a maple group there, and I have some metasequoia groups as well. Let me show you a large maple group which I'm very fond of showing you. It's in its deciduous state, but that's when they look nicest. It's a lovely sunny morning today, and although it's the 29th of January, the temperature has suddenly gone over the top. It's 11 degrees centigrade today, so it's not very cold. But I'm sure we're not out of the woods yet, because we could get a sudden cold snap, and we haven't had snow. The snow is yet to come. So here are some more examples of groups. That's a mixed group of beech, and I think I put 1 or 2 oak trees in there. So this is now my very famous maple group. This I did not make. This I imported from Japan in 1993 from a very famous grower in Japan, and needless to say, this cost me a lot of money. So 1 or 2 trees have died, but the rest of the group is still very nice, and it's got a slight flare to it, fanning out. So this is a different style. So this group has stayed here for a while. 1 or 2 lesser trees which got strangled by the stronger ones I had to remove, but by and large I haven't changed the group much. If we look to the tree on the right, that is not a group. I think I've showed you that before. That in fact is a raft, because there's a twin trunk tree here with very good nibari, and the root connects to this other one, so it's all connected by the root here. So this is strictly not a forest group. Although it looks like a forest, it is what we call a raft, linked by a branch there. So I thought I'd just show you that as an aside. I have one very old Japanese beech group here, which I'm making into a big forest. So this is the white bark beech, which has got lovely white bark, and the leaves are very pointed, what we call lanciliate, or whatever is the Latin word. So let's go and show you how I make a beech group using native group. Now that's a clump style. Josh has just pointed. This is Korean hornbeam, but this is clump. There are several trees grown together from the base, so they're not separate trees. That is one clump. Japanese hornbeam. This is Japanese hornbeam group. Nice, delicate little trees. So not all the groups need to be big. I need to trim it back, but I'll do that probably in February or very early March. So let's show you the material I'm going to work with, because this material is very easily available. When I make the groups, you can either put it straight away in a bonsai pot should you wish, but I prefer to put them in ordinary seed trays. And by keeping them in seed trays, I let the roots mesh, and once the roots have meshed, I can then put it into a proper bonsai pot maybe a year later, or maybe even 6 months or 9 months later. I'm going to show you how we choose the trees for the group. I usually like to have trees which are fairly straight. They should be fairly straight because the groups are usually like that. When trees grow in a forest, they haven't got room to move, so they're tall and slender. These beech have got such lovely branching, it seems a shame to cut it up to make into a forest group. So let's see how many trees I will use. The ones which have got potential for using as individual trees, I will probably keep them aside. Now this is a tall straight one, and let's begin by trimming some of the branches off. Seems a shame you take all the trouble to grow the branches and then you have to trim it off. So as I said, the branches are tall, I mean the tree is tall and the branches are close to the trunk. I think I've mentioned before, why do beech trees retain the leaves throughout the winter? Certain deciduous trees, they don't shed the leaves, they turn brown, but they don't shed till very near the spring. And I was told that in the evolutionary process, they keep the leaves on so that it prevents animals like deer grazing on the young tips. So that's what I was told. I don't know how far that is true. Don't need it that tall. Now when it comes to choosing roots, a lot of people like these exposed roots, but I think if you look at this tree carefully, it's got a bit of an inverse taper there. And there's so much root here, I can cut this tree down should I want at this point. But in any case, there are too many roots. A lot of people do not know how much root to take off. Yep. So this is just a very rough start. Now that's a lovely straight tree. Now because the roots are going straight down, I may have a problem spreading it off, so I take some root off. So that's enough. It's a lovely straight tree for a group. I know that I can cut it there, but I think for the sake of being a bit safe, I decided not to, because those 4 roots may not be sufficient. I'd rather keep those. Making groups, I think you need like 4 or 6 hands, because you need to place it and then hold it together. So I've got another helper here in the form of Josh. So what I may do is I will just tie it together temporarily, because until I fill the soil, the tree is not going to be stable. Okay, we'll leave that there. Then remember that in a group you don't want all the trees one size, you need them of differing sizes. So you need some tall ones and some short ones. Using bare root trees is very handy for making groups, because you know that you can get them very close together like that. If it was with a root ball, you could never get it as close as this. So this is the stage when we can do it. Let me just hold up. So again, we tie close together. On another occasion, I'll show you how to make a forest group with these trees that come with the flower pots, because trees like that, you cannot remove too much of the root ball. Now this tree leans a bit to this side, so when I plant it, I will plant it at this angle so that it looks straight. Like so. Again, the roots are very deep. I think I got enough root there. I think again that's enough. Roughly in that position. We keep the smaller trees towards the back or to the side. So they make a nice contrast. I don't want to raise this vexed issue of odd and even numbers. My view is that once you pass the number 7, the eye cannot really distinguish between 9, 7 and 11. So how many have we got there? 4, 6. Don't keep them all in one line, or don't arrange them so that they are all evenly spaced. Keep some close and some wide apart. So again, let me just bring a piece of wire to temporarily hold it together. So those of you who are working on your own, you may need to get your partner or your children to hold it for you. As I said, it can be quite a tricky thing holding the trees. So that's 2, 4, 6 trees so far. Let me see what 7 looks like. Now that's a very lovely, well-branched tree. It seems a shame to use it for a group, so I will probably not use it for a group, but I will just cut it down. And I've got so many of these, I can find another one. So I will keep this for making into the ordinary tree. So that's not going to be used in the group. Same with this one. This got such a lovely twist and bend to it. It would be a shame to use it in a group. I could wire it out and make a very nice tree from that. So that's not going to be used in the group. Of course, if you had no choice, then you have to make do with it. Now that's another one which has got a lot of kink in there. So if it's got a lovely kink, I can wire this out and make it in a form upright tree. I will do that for you. See, with a bit of wire you can open it out and you can get a very nice tree like that. So I won't bother to do that tree as one of the ones for the group. So 3 of them are saved. So I've got 3, 6. I will find another 5. So hold on a minute while I go get some more. So we've got 6 trees there. I'm going to look for another 5 fairly straight ones. That's not too bad. And the height I want to keep like that. I don't want too many tap roots. Many people ask me, how do you know where to put the trees? Well, you just got to try to see what works best. So just try them in different positions and see if it works. If it doesn't work, try it again. So you notice I'm now trying to really mix the trees up. So there are some big, some small. I'll bring some soil and it'll be all propped up in a minute. So I've got 3, 6 and 2, 8. Try to find straight ones. Now that's a weird one. Look at these roots there. I think I've got enough roots, so I'm going to cut this off. I'll try and see if it roots as a root cutting. You never know. It may sprout. If I plant this, I'll get a new plant from that. It's still too nice as a tree individually. I think, see, it's so well branched, I will keep it. No, again, I won't use this. I'll keep this as an individual tree. That's not going to go in the group, so that's going to be kept aside for something else. Oh, that's a nice straight one. That's a nice straight one. So, that can be used. All these long, deep roots come off. Pity there are so many leaves making a confusion, but once the leaves drop off and you get the new leaves growing, it'll look much different. 4, that's 4, 4, and 5 is 9. See, a tray of this size you can easily get about 15 trees in. I don't want to put too many trees, because sometimes if you put too many trees, when it comes into leaf, there's so much congestion, you can't appreciate the beauty of the individual trees. Although they're in a group, you still want to appreciate the beauty of each of the trees. So if we keep it two together like that. 4, 8, 10. Now, even though there are 10 trees, you won't say that it's not pleasing. By adding another one, I won't make it a more beautiful group or anything like that. Now that's a fairly straight one, but again the roots are funny like that. So what do I do? Lots of funny roots. Again, in this situation, I'm going to cut that. Make a root cutting with that. See if it roots. And use the tree like so. Maybe put this tree this side. So I've got 2 for 5, 5 for 9, 9 to 11 trees. Okay, now let me bring some soil. It's supplied by a grower that also supplies Wisley Gardens with their alpine compost. So it's a very sandy, loamy mix. And beech trees like the soft soil. So as soon as you put some soil in, it can support the trees. The original soil in which these trees were growing was a sandy loam, so this soil is fairly similar. I'm now going to put them close together like that and make sure that you can still see each individual tree. I don't want them hiding any tree. I've put them in like separate groups. I could put them all tight together should I want to. So again, I'm experimenting to see what works and what doesn't work. As you know, with making a group, there's so many different styles. You can make like 2 clumps, 1 clump here and another clump there. But this is going to be, I think, a unified clump. I need to bear in mind the heights of the trees, because the tallest trees should be in the middle and then the shorter trees towards the outside. I find now here that they are better splayed out, so let me try this time. I will, when I've finished doing this, remove a lot of these leaves so that it doesn't look so congested, so that you can also see the structure of each of the trees. But let me just roughly arrange them first, and then I will do that. So if we stand back, we can just see, I think that tree at the back is crossing that way, so I think I need to make it more straight like that so that it doesn't conflict. Don't have crossing trunks and crossing branches. Now I can remove that wire and open it up like so. Because the trees have got so many branches, I'm going to splay them off a little bit so that it doesn't look so congested next to each other. certain species lend themselves to making forests. I've seen some examples of trees which are not suitable. I once saw someone do a group of baobab trees. I won't mention where I saw it, but because the trunks are so thick, they didn't fit in a group. Of course, if they have thick trunks, you should space the trees more widely apart. But if you use trees with very thick trunks, it doesn't always work. I think that works reasonably well. Always stand back and have a look. So you can see there's a slight splaying out. And for refinement, I think we can remove some of these branches. Always remember that you are going to get new leaders going, so don't worry. It will come with time. See, there are too many branches there, so we'll take some of those off. Hanging down, I don't need that there. That long hairy root there, I will cut it off once the tree starts growing. Or I can cut it off now, in fact. Don't need those roots. There's plenty root underneath. So that's not a bad looking group. You can break it up and try all sorts of permutations and combinations, but that I feel is quite a pleasant looking group. Now let me just point out what the principles are for making a group like this. So you notice that we try to keep the big powerful trees in the middle. We call them the principal trees, the ones with the thickest trunk and the tallest tree. So that is what we call the principal tree. And the overall shape is conical. So although we are making a forest composed of individual trees, the entire composition needs to be like a unified whole. The whole thing needs to balance. So you're more or less looking as if this whole thing is one tree, but it is not one tree. It's composed of separate trees. But the composition is such that it should look as if it is unified, like one tree. So I think you can keep refining it as much as you like. And I've, in this case, made the tree splay out a little bit. If I kept it too close, the branches will merge with each other too much, so that may not work. I've managed to get 11 trees into a fairly small seed tray, not that big. I could have put it in a bonsai pot should I wish. But I always prefer to keep it in these trays because it gives it more room to grow. And once the roots have established, I can then put it into a bonsai pot, or should I wish, I can also just put it on a piece of slate because the roots will hold the soil together. So there you go. There is one group finished, and that is using beech. The other trees you can use is the hornbeam, and I will maybe even do one just now. Now this time I'm going to use the European hornbeam, which is the Carpinus Bitulus. So again, I'm looking for trees which are fairly straight. I don't want the branches spreading too much, and I want them tall, straight trees. See, there are two branches there. I'm going to take one out because if you have two, you'll get an inverse taper over there. Remember, the more branches you have at any one growing point, you will get inverse taper. Also, that is very thick. Let me just reduce that a bit. I've got to be careful I don't reduce so much that I end up with nothing. So now these roots are a bit deep. So let's cut the deep ones. And that is my central tree, hopefully. Find another straight one. Again, you see these long tap roots. I think I can cut that off. See, there's sufficient root there to support the tree. Two. Three. This is a bit of a curly one. Pity I can't keep it, but I'll use this. It's 4 and 1 more. Let's put them together first to see where we go. So I'm keeping a piece of wire looped around it so that I can prop it up that way. Now this tree, because it's got a slight kink, I'll put it on the side. The taproots are a bit long, so let me cut some of the taproot off. Look at the vigorous root there. When you have such a lot of feeder roots, you don't have to worry about cutting them. The tree will survive. So this is on the side because it's got more branches that way. And I don't want to go too mad. We'll just put 5. Now it's a simple group like that, almost like a clump, almost like a clump. If you, let me just put some soil. The beauty of using indigenous trees is that you don't have to be fussy about soil. They'll go in any type of compost. So I'm trying to get them really close, almost like a clump, and fanning out. And if you want to really make it work like a clump, you can even tie the roots together. Get it really close. Let's try this. So I put the roots close, and as they grow, they may then fuse together. Which I don't need. ambitious. Let's open it up a little more. I think that's too much. So this is again like flower arranging almost. You're just arranging a bunch of 5 stems of flowers. So you keep playing with it till it looks right. When it feels right, then stop. If it doesn't feel right, then you keep doing it. Okay, let's stand back and have a look at it. Okay, it should be okay. Okay, it should stand. I've found in the past that the camera doesn't lie. If you want to get a good perspective of your tree, just take a still with the camera, with your phone or whatever, and then look at it and see whether it is pleasing to the eye or not. If it's not pleasing, then do it again, arrange it again. So let's look at it. That's just 5 trees. It's fanning out again. You notice now that this fanning out business always looks more pleasing than if the trees were just dead straight. If we keep them all dead straight, it doesn't look so nice. If they fan out, it's got a freedom and a movement as if it's trying to fly. I always remember the analogy when you make a forest group. Always remember that the birds should be able to fly through it. So there you are. I didn't use a lot of trees, just 5 trees, and it's quite pleasing like that. Many of you have seen these clump style trees where you get several trees with multiple trunks. The Japanese term is kabudachi, and as you know, I don't like using Japanese terms, although that is the common name that's given to that style of tree. So it is a clump style. It's not often that it is one single tree, but they're invariably made up with several trees. Now, many people wonder how they're made. It is easiest to make it with young plants. I remember going to Japan back in the early 90s, in 1993. There was a Japanese grower called Mr. Ishiguro. I think he was about 60 years old then. He may be in his late 90s if he's still around. But Mr. Ishiguro used to grow beautiful clump maples. And he used to just tie the maples together and grow it in the ground till they got big, and that was your clump style. Many people wonder how it is made. It is usually made, or more easily made, when you have trees that are bare root. These are called bare root trees. The soil is shaken off, so you can easily assemble them together very tight. Now, if they were in a pot like this is a larch. If it is growing in a pot, you see the roots are there, you'll have to remove all the soil to get it close. So rather than do that, if you can get hold of trees which are bare root, it's much easier to put them close together, because the clumps only look nice when they're very close. See, like this one, this I'm going to put really close like that to make a twin trunk tree. So when you get that situation, all you do, show you with a piece of wire, we tie it round wherever you wish. And as I say, there's so many ways of doing it. You can devise your own method. The principle is the same. So there you are, you get a nice twin trunk tree like that. And put it in a flower pot or put it back in the ground. And in time, in maybe 2 or 3 years, they'll fuse together to make a twin trunk tree. If you expand that principle to a few more trees, look at this, they're all bare root trees. I'm going to plant a clump with 5 trees. So because they're without the soil, you can get it really close. But can you imagine if you have the soil that you have to shake from a flower pot? It's very hard to get them so close together. So this is the ideal sort of situation. Without the soil, what we call bare root, and you can get them really close like this. So this one, let me see what I can do with this. Tie it close to the base So once you tie it there, then you can arrange it so that it looks pleasing. Usually with maples, you've got to be careful to find the same clones, otherwise some of them may have different shaped leaves, different colored leaves, and it will look odd. So that one I've got fairly close. Again, it's like a bunch of flowers, and then I can put it in a pot like this. So it's not really a forest, but this is what we call a clump. And if you want to separate it, you can separate it with wedges of wood. So that's how you make a clump. I thought I would add this as a separate video because many people have asked, how do you make kabudachi? So that is how you make kabudachi. I think I've showed you using young maples, but this is how we do it with bare root trees. And you must admit, it's far simpler if you use bare root trees rather than trees which are growing in a pot. Now, just for the heck of it, I'm going to get a few maple seedlings which are in a pot. I think I've done this some months ago where I show making kabudachi maples. So that's how we do that, fill with soil. Now, hang on a minute while I get some trees. So now this is a situation where we're trying to make a clump with trees that have been already growing in pots. And because they have a root ball, I will explain to you why it's not as easy to make a clump with trees like this. See how far apart you've got to keep it. So if you wanted to make a clump, you would sadly have to remove all the soil from that pot to get it really close together. What a shame. If you had a bare root, you would have to do this. The other way of getting rid of the soil is to dunk it in water. If you dunk it in water, you can shake all the soil off. And of course, the dormant season is the ideal time. This is now the 29th of January, tomorrow is the 30th, so we're almost into February. So it's quite safe to do it. We're talking of UK. In some of the colder countries, you may not be able to do it until spring. But as long as the tree is dormant, you can tease the roots so that you can get it almost bare root. See, I've removed half the soil. I still can't get it that close. So again, just shows that if you have a bare root tree situation, then it's much easier and simpler to bind them together. So I'm trying to do a 5-tree clump, and you see I've got to get virtually all the soil off. And of course the tree won't die because being dormant, it's quite safe to do it at this time of the year. These hopefully are, I think, atros. I'm not sure. If it's not, I may not put that. That one is not an atro. It may be an atro. So that's how we do it. So we try and get it really, really close. If you have too many roots, you can sometimes cut some root off. So it doesn't hurt to cut just a little bit off so that you can really get it close together like that. But even 5 trees, you see, I can't get it really at the base because there's a bit of soil there. Again, just shows if I had taken all the soil off, it would have been simpler. So this is the general principle. Again, we say it's not rocket science, it's just simple common sense. See, difficult to get it close. Whereas that clump of big beech trees, I got it really close, touching each other. But this one, because it's just got a bit of soil, not that easy, not that easy. So try to get it really, really close. There you are, that's close, but not close enough. See, I want the trunks touching at the base. That's the sort of effect. So that's a 3 tree. Just a word of warning, when you do trees like this, clumping them together, you will always get one or two trees which are very strong and vigorous, and they tend to strangle the weaker trees. So don't be disappointed if that happens. And even in a forest situation where you have several trees growing in a forest, the stronger trees can swamp the weaker ones, preventing the weaker ones to develop. So you just got to like fit it together till they look compact. You see, again, I can't get it that close. And this is where I think now tying it with a bit of wire will help. So let me get a piece of wire. You've got to be careful to remove the wire in time, because the wire can bite into the bark. So I've got them plaited almost close together, but I don't want them plaited so much that it looks untidy. I've got to make it look natural. Those of you who are into forestry will know that there's a term called coppicing, where you cut a tall tree down to the ground and it sprouts from the base, so you get multiple trunks growing from there. So this in fact is like developing a coppice. I'm still not entirely satisfied with that because I want to come out more radially. It's all about making it look right. See, that's too congested. Start all over again. The lean of the trunk is not quite right. That looks okay. That looks right there. Perhaps I shouldn't be too greedy and try and put 5 together. Those 3 look right like that. Those 3 look right like that. If I try and get 5, I don't want them crisscrossing. So 5 is difficult. Okay, let me tie those 3. Because you can get as many as 7 trees together as a 7-tree clump. So that is a 3-tree situation. Twin is easy. See, sometimes you can't force it. See that? Getting the 4th and 5th, that is okay. That I got 4 there. See, suddenly it works. That works. So it's just a question of persevering. Okay, I got 4 there. Now let me see if I can get the 5th one. Let me keep those 4 together. And then I know I want this to come out this way, so I'll cut some root on this side. I've got to be careful not to take so much root that it stresses the tree. There's a lot of root on this side. Usually trees which are grown from seed are extremely vigorous. Cuttings don't tend to be as vigorous. I've still got a lot of root there, so although I've cut away some root, there is enough to sustain the tree. Now I've got 4 neatly there, so again, as I say, it's persevering all the time till it looks right. You may not get it first go, but you keep doing it till it looks okay. Now that's not too bad. See, the secret is to get them really close at the base. So that, I think, works. So you can either plant it in the ground or plant it in a flower pot like that. So that is how we make the clumps. I think you can still separate it to get it absolutely right. I've gone and spoiled it now. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You get it right and then it gets disturbed. So if I struggle and you are struggling as well, don't be disappointed. This is how you get the right composition. See, I got it right and now I've lost it. So let's start again. Funny how sometimes you think you've got it and then you lose it. I think I was being too greedy. I had the 3 tree situation, that was right. And then I was greedy and trying to put 5. So that 3 is okay. Once I start putting 5, 4 is still okay. Maybe I won't get it that close, I'll get it that close. That may work like that. That may work. So keep it there. I will just put it in a pot. I will just show you. You don't always have to put it in a bonsai pot. Use the same soil. In fact, these situations, they are better planted in the ground once the roots are established. Don't want to bury it too deep. I will show you the progress of this one. It just shows when I planted in a pot, I've lost it again. I'm half inclined to do the video again, but I don't want to, because I want to show you that it's not that easy. Even with my experience, I didn't get it in one go. So if I can't get it in one go, don't be disheartened. It takes a lot of trial and error to get it absolutely perfect. So as I said, the 3 situation was okay, but the 4 situation didn't quite work. 5 situation again didn't quite work. Don't cut too much root off for fear of killing the tree. to square one. I want them fanning out from a central point. As I say, getting 3 in together, that's not difficult. 3 like that is not difficult. It's getting the 4 and 5 which is difficult. See, I can't cross it like that. I can't cross it. That might do. That might do, like that. But when I plant it in the pot, it gets dislodged. And although I always say don't be superstitious with 4, see, that's quite wide apart, not quite right. I'll try and put the central one using the thickest trunk. That will work like that. That will work like that. I hope you're not getting tired and bored, but it just shows it takes quite a lot of effort to get it absolutely right. Now that is very nice together as a 2. That again is nice as a 3. We come back to the same old proposition that 3 is not difficult. That 4 is also working well. Once I try to put the 5 in, for some reason, that eludes me. Would that work? It's crossing, the line is crossing. It's not quite right. If I put it like that, 4 is okay. I bet you guys are laughing at me. But although it's frustrating, as I said, I'm deliberately showing what you call it, all the problems. That means it's not a perfect video. I'm not creating anything perfect, but it just shows how much effort you got to put in to get it right. Now those 5 look right. That looks right there. Now to keep it there, that is the trick. Now what will I do? Let me get a piece of wire and tie it in there so it doesn't escape. Tie it at the base. Hopefully when I plant it, it won't get dislodged. So that is how I'm going to plant it. So there you go. Success at last. So if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. I remember there's that saying, isn't it? So that is your clump style made up after several attempts, radiating from a base. And over a period of time, I'll try and grow the central one tall and the side ones shorter. So this is how you make the kabudachi or clump style. There you go.